Tensions across the Middle East reached a boiling point this week before a last-minute U.S.-brokered ceasefire helped prevent a broader regional conflict. Syrian security forces were deployed in large numbers across Suwayda, a predominantly Druze city in southern Syria, after escalating unrest threatened to spiral out of control. Meanwhile, Washington stepped in diplomatically to de-escalate rising hostilities between Israel and Syria. Syrian government reinforces Suwayda. After protests, Syrian state media confirmed the deployment of elite security and military units across Suwayda province on Thursday. Following several days of anti-government protests and sporadic armed clashes with local militias. The protests, fueled by economic hardship, high inflation, and a growing demand for local autonomy, have been gaining momentum over the past month. Activists on the ground reported that security forces moved swiftly to retake key government buildings seized by protesters earlier this week. Internet service in parts of Suwayda was reportedly disrupted, and checkpoints were established throughout the city. This is the largest deployment we've seen in years, said Rami Abdelrahman, head of the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The government is clearly worried about losing control in the south. The Druze community in Suwayda has historically had a complicated relationship with the Assad regime, neither fully loyal nor openly hostile. But recent socioeconomic collapse and fuel shortages have reignited calls for decentralization and local governance, especially among younger Syrians. Israel-Syria clashes prompt international alarm simultaneously. Border tensions between Israel and Syria surged this week, with Israeli jets conducting limited airstrikes in southern Syria, allegedly targeting Iranian-aligned militia infrastructure near Deraa and Quneitra. The Syrian army responded with anti-aircraft fire and ground-based rocket attacks near the Golan Heights, briefly raising fears of a direct confrontation. Several Israeli border communities were placed on high alert, and the Israeli military reinforced northern positions. Syrian media reported casualties among both government soldiers and allied militias. Pentagon officials confirmed that U.S. CENTCOM and the State Department engaged in urgent talks with both Damascus and Jerusalem, aiming to contain the escalation. U.S. steps in to broker fragile ceasefire after nearly 72 hours of intense diplomatic negotiations. U.S. Secretary of State Samantha Power announced a tentative ceasefire agreement between Israel and Syria. The deal, reportedly mediated through backchannels involving Jordan and Russia, includes a freeze on aerial bombardments and artillery strikes along the Israeli-Syrian frontier. We are cautiously optimistic, said Power during a press briefing. This is a critical step to prevent wider regional destabilization. The ceasefire terms also reportedly involve the reining in of pro-Aryan militias near the Golan Heights and enhanced UNDOF United Nations Disengagement Observer Force monitoring in the buffer zone. Uncertain path forward. Despite the ceasefire, analysts remain skeptical about long-term peace. The real issues: Hezbollah's entrenchment in Syria, Iranian influence, and domestic Syrian instability remain unresolved, said Dr. Lena Khatib of Chatham House. This ceasefire buys time, but not solutions. Meanwhile, the situation in Suwayda continues to simmer, with Druze community leaders calling for dialogue and reforms. Whether the Assad government will engage or double down on suppression remains to be seen. As the U.S. juggles crises from Gaza to Lebanon to Syria, region teeters on the edge, momentarily quiet, but far from stable.